You've been told your whole life to be good, to be kind, to be selfless, to always put others first, and you've believed it. You've tried to be good, to please, to sacrifice, to bend. But deep down, haven't you noticed the hidden cost? You give and give, yet you are taken for granted. You forgive endlessly, yet you are disrespected. You sacrifice, yet no one sacrifices for you. And when the moment comes where you need strength, you realize that all your goodness has left you weak. People don't see your kindness as virtue. They see it as opportunity. They exploit it. They consume it. And they leave you empty. Machiavelli saw this centuries ago. He said that the illusion of goodness is one of the most dangerous traps a human being can fall into. Because while you are trying to be good, others are trying to win. While you are focused on appearing virtuous, others are focused on gaining power. And in that imbalance, you are destroyed. Think of your own life. Have you ever been the person who always says yes, only to feel resentment later? Have you ever been the one who avoids conflict, only to be trampled by those who don't? Have you ever tried so hard to keep the peace that you lost yourself entirely? That's what Machiavelli was warning against. Not kindness itself, but blind kindness. Not virtue itself, but the worship of virtue at the expense of strength. The herd tells you to be good, to play nice, to always forgive. But Machiavelli whispers a darker truth. If you try too hard to be good, you will be destroyed by those who are not. This doesn't mean becoming cruel. It doesn't mean abandoning all morality. It means facing the harsh reality that people are not saints. They are selfish, ambitious, manipulative. And if you walk blindly into that reality with nothing but goodness, you will collapse. This is the first problem we must confront. Goodness without strength is weakness, and weakness invites exploitation. Jung would agree. He warned that when you repress your shadow, the darker instincts, the aggression, the cunning, you don't become good. You become fragile. You project goodness outward, but inside you are filled with resentment and unconscious drives, and those drives leak out in unhealthy ways. Jung said, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely, to accept that you are not purely good, that you carry shadow, that sometimes cruelty lives in you, ambition lives in you, power lives in you. To deny this is to be unconscious. To integrate it is to be strong." Machiavelli demanded this integration. He said the ruler, and by extension any human being, must learn not only how to be good, but how not to be good. You must know both, and use both consciously as the situation demands. If you cling to goodness alone, you are predictable. You are weak. You are prey. So let's dive deeper. What are the hidden costs of trying to be a good person? And what does Machiavelli offer as the antidote? The first cost is loss of respect. People don't respect endless goodness. They exploit it. They test it. They push until you break. Think of the friend who constantly asks for favors but never returns them. The colleague who takes credit for your work because they know you won't fight back. The partner who keeps disrespecting you because you always forgive. Goodness without boundaries invites contempt. Machiavelli's antidote is clear. It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. Fear here does not mean terror. It means respect. It means setting boundaries so clear, so steady, that people know there are lines they cannot cross. Love alone collapses. Fear alone corrodes. But fear with love creates stability. The second cost is exhaustion. Trying to be good all the time drains you. You are constantly suppressing your real feelings, anger, frustration, ambition. Because they don't fit the image of goodness, you end up living for others, not yourself. Jung called this living in persona, a mask of virtue hiding a soul filled with chaos. And masks always crack. Machiavelli's antidote? Realism. Stop pretending people are better than they are. Stop pretending you are better than you are. Accept that people lie, cheat, and manipulate. Accept that you do too in small ways. Then stop wasting energy suppressing it. Use it consciously. If you feel anger, channel it into boundaries. If you feel ambition, channel it into creation. If you feel cunning, channel it into strategy. The third cost is mediocrity. Goodness alone makes you average, harmless, forgettable. The world does not remember those who collapse into niceness. It remembers those who had the courage to stand apart. Nietzsche called this self-overcoming. He said the greatest individuals did not waste their lives trying to fit into the herd's morality. They created their own. They stood alone, and in doing so, they became unforgettable. Machiavelli and Nietzsche, though centuries apart, agreed. Stop trying to be what the herd calls good. Become strong, become rare, become whole. But here's the cliffhanger. If you stop trying to be good, what do you become? Do you risk becoming cruel, selfish, ruthless? Or do you step into a deeper kind of integrity? One that is rooted not in appearing good, but in being whole. In the next block, we will dive into Machiavelli's most controversial lessons, the strategies he gave rulers that can transform not only politics, but your daily life. And you'll see why facing this truth is the key to becoming respected, unshakable, and free. You've begun to see it. Being good without strength is a trap. Machiavelli's genius was not in telling people what they wanted to hear. It was in exposing the uncomfortable truths about human nature. Truths most are too afraid to admit, and once you see them, you cannot unsee them. The first great lesson, fear versus love. Machiavelli's most famous words cut like a blade. It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. For centuries, people have twisted this into cruelty, as if Machiavelli were encouraging tyranny. But that is a shallow reading. He was not glorifying cruelty. He was exposing a deeper truth. Love is fragile. It fades with time. It bends under pressure. It depends on others' moods and feelings. Fear, however, is steady. It anchors respect. It draws boundaries that last even when emotions shift. Think of your own life. How many times have you depended on love alone? You gave endlessly, hoping affection would protect you. But the moment feelings changed, so did loyalty. The friend who loved you turned cold. The partner who swore they'd never leave walked away. The colleagues who praised you vanished when things got hard. Love is beautiful, but alone, it collapses. Fear, in Machiavelli's sense, means boundaries, respect, a steady awareness that there are lines which cannot be crossed. Without that, love becomes exploitation. So Machiavelli's lesson for you is this. Stop trying to be loved at all costs. Focus on respect. Respect lasts longer than affection. Respect protects you when emotions shift. Respect makes love stronger because love without respect is not love. It's dependency. The second great lesson, appearances versus reality. Machiavelli wrote, "Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are." He understood the brutal truth. People rarely care about who you truly are. They care about what you project. The world judges by appearances, not intentions. And if you ignore this, you will suffer. You've lived this. You've tried to be authentic by showing all your flaws, all your chaos, all your pain. And instead of admiring your honesty, people lost respect. You gave them your rawness, but they weren't ready to carry it. Meanwhile, someone else who played the role, who wore the mask well, rose higher, gained more influence, and earned more respect. Was it fair? No. Was it real? Yes. Machiavelli's point is not to abandon authenticity, but to master appearances. To understand that people judge the mask, so you must learn to shape it consciously. The danger comes when you confuse appearances with reality, when you begin believing your own performance. But if you wear the mask strategically, with awareness, you control the game instead of being controlled by it. Think about work. You don't need to show every insecurity to your boss. You need to project competence. Think about relationships. You don't need to expose every fear to someone you just met. You need to project steadiness. This is not hypocrisy. It's strategy. Hypocrisy is believing the mask. Strategy is using the mask. And Machiavelli's wisdom lies in the second. The third great lesson, strategy versus impulse. Most people live reactively. They collapse into impulse, into emotion, into habit. They act before thinking. And then they call the chaos fate. Machiavelli despised this blindness. He believed fortune, fate itself, favors those who prepare, those who strategize, those who anticipate. He said, "Fortune is a woman, and if you wish to control her, you must treat her roughly." Controversial, yes, but beneath the archaic metaphor lies a truth. Fortune favors boldness. Fate bends to those who act with strategy, not hesitation. Think of chess. The impulsive player makes the move that feels good now, but loses the game later. The strategist sacrifices short-term comfort for long-term victory. Life is the same. You felt the cost of impulse, the argument you entered without thinking, the money you spent without planning, the trust you gave without testing. And you've seen how those moments create years of regret. Strategy prevents this. Strategy demands patience. Strategy demands foresight. Machiavelli's lesson is this: stop reacting. Stop living as if today is all that matters. Think in decades, not days. Anticipate betrayal. Anticipate shifts. Anticipate collapse. And when they come, you will not fall like the herd. You will already be standing where they are too blind to see. The fourth great lesson, strength versus collapse. Machiavelli said, "The first method for estimating the intelligence of a ruler is to look at the men he has around him. Strength is not just personal, it's structural. You can be intelligent, but if you surround yourself with weak, manipulative, or foolish people, you will collapse." He knew that your environment either strengthens or drains you. Think of your circle now. Are you surrounded by people who push you higher, or people who keep you small? Do they challenge you to grow, or comfort you into stagnation? Machiavelli would demand you cut ruthlessly. Remove the ones who drain. Remove the ones who collapse. Remove the ones who feed off your weakness. Because strength is not just built inside, it is preserved by who you allow near you. And here's the hard truth. People will judge you not only by your actions, but by your associations. Walk with manipulators, and you will be seen as one. Surround yourself with victims, and you will collapse into victimhood. Spend time with the unambitious, and ambition will rot in you too. Machiavelli's wisdom is merciless here. Choose allies with care, because they will decide your fate as much as you do. Now step back and see the pattern. Machiavelli's lessons are not about cruelty. They are about survival. They are about clarity. They are about refusing to collapse into illusions, fear and love, appearances and reality, strategy and impulse, strength and collapse. Each of these lessons is a knife that cuts through naivety. Each one forces you to see the world not as you wish it to be, but as it is. But here is the cliffhanger. If the world is this ruthless, if people are this manipulative, if appearances matter more than reality, how do you keep from becoming cruel yourself? How do you use Machiavelli's lessons without losing your soul? In the next block, we'll go deeper. We'll explore how to walk the razor's edge between shadow and light, how to embrace Machiavelli's harsh truths without collapsing into cynicism. We'll see how Jung's psychology meets Machiavelli's strategy to create not just power, but authenticity. And we'll discover how to use fear, masks, and strategy to build not only respect, but freedom. Machiavelli revealed the cruelty of the world. Jung revealed the cruelty of the self. Together they form a mirror that most people cannot bear to look into. One shows you the manipulation outside, the other shows you the manipulation inside. But if you have the courage to look, you discover something extraordinary. Power and authenticity are not enemies. They are twins waiting to be united. The danger is one-sidedness. If you follow Machiavelli without Jung, you become cynical, cold, ruthless. You learn to dominate, but you lose your humanity. You gain power, but you hollow yourself out. And eventually the very empire you built consumes you. History is filled with tyrants who rose fast but collapsed even faster because they believed only in fear, only in cunning, only in masks. But if you follow Jung without Machiavelli, you collapse in another way. You become too soft, too self-reflective, too naive about the dangers of others. You dive into your inner world but forget that the outer world is filled with predators. You cultivate authenticity, but you lack defense. You cultivate meaning, but you lose strategy. And you are devoured. The balance is everything. The integration is the path. You need Machiavelli's realism and Jung's depth. You need strategy and shadow. You need to see the world as it is, and yourself as you are. Only then do you stop collapsing into illusions. Only then do you become whole. Take Machiavelli's lesson of fear versus love. Without Jung, it becomes tyranny. With Jung, it becomes balance. Fear, in Jung's terms, is the shadow, the aggression, the boundaries, the part of you that says no. Love, in Jung's terms, is the persona, the part of you that connects, pleases, builds harmony. If you reject fear, you collapse. If you reject love, you corrupt. But if you integrate both, you become rare. You become someone who can inspire devotion while commanding respect. Someone who can be compassionate without being weak, firm without being cruel. Take Machiavelli's lesson of appearances versus reality. Without Jung, it becomes pure manipulation, masks worn so long you forget who you are. But Jung gives you individuation, the process of becoming whole, of recognizing that the mask, persona, is only one layer of the self. He warns you not to confuse it with your core. With Machiavelli, you learn to wear masks strategically. With Jung, you learn to take them off in solitude. With Machiavelli, you master the game. With Jung, you remember you are more than the game. Take Machiavelli's lesson of strategy versus impulse. Without Jung, it becomes endless calculation. Life lived only as chess. But Jung adds meaning. He shows that strategy is not just about defeating others, but about defeating your own chaos. When you integrate, you stop being ruled by impulse. You stop being ruled by emotion. You become deliberate, conscious, intentional. You combine Machiavelli's foresight with Jung's depth, and suddenly your strategies are not just cunning, they are transformative. Take Machiavelli's lesson of strength versus collapse. Without Jung, it becomes external. Build armies, cut weak people, surround yourself with power. But Jung reminds you that collapse often begins inside. A man can have a fortress of stone but collapse into addiction, despair, unconsciousness. True strength is both external and internal. Machiavelli tells you to cut weak allies. Jung tells you to cut weak illusions. And together, they teach you how to build a circle and a soul that cannot be broken. This integration is rare. Most choose one side. They either collapse into Machiavellian cruelty or Jungian softness. Few dare to hold both. Few dare to walk the razor's edge between power and authenticity. But if you do, you become unforgettable. Let's ground this in practice. Imagine someone insults you publicly. The naive response? Collapse into apology, trying to look good. The Machiavellian response? Strike back hard, destroy them, show dominance. The Jungian response? Reflect endlessly, ask what part of your shadow is triggered. The integrated response? You hold silence first. Let the tension build. Then you answer calmly, without collapse, without rage. You expose their pettiness by refusing to be dragged into it. You project steadiness, and that steadiness terrifies them, because it is power with depth. Imagine a relationship where someone tests your boundaries. The naive response, forgive endlessly, hoping they'll change. The Machiavellian response, manipulate them, control them, dominate to avoid weakness. The Jungian response, journal your feelings, explore your shadow, but never act. The integrated response, you draw a clear line. You explain it calmly. If they cross it again, you walk away. You show compassion, but you also show strength. You prove love without collapse, fear without cruelty. Imagine building a career. The naive response? Work hard, hope kindness will be rewarded. The Machiavellian response? Step on others, manipulate appearances, climb at all costs. The Jungian response? Wait for meaning, search for perfect alignment, risk doing nothing. The integrated response? You master appearances strategically, projecting competence. You build alliances carefully, as Machiavelli would advise, but you also check your shadow. Asking yourself whether you're using people or creating something authentic, you rise with power, but without betraying your depth. Do you see the pattern? Integration is strength without cruelty, authenticity without collapse. It's Machiavelli and Jung speaking together. Be cunning, but don't lose your soul. Be authentic, but don't lose your defenses. But here's the hard truth. Integration demands pain. You cannot integrate shadow without facing it. You cannot build strategy without sacrifice. You will lose people. You will be misunderstood. You will terrify some, disappoint others, and unsettle the herd. Because the herd wants you simple, either good or bad, either soft or hard. They cannot stand complexity, but you are not here to be simple. You are here to be whole. And this is where individuation meets power. Jung said the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. Machiavelli said survival belongs to those who see the world as it is. Put them together, and you get this. The privilege of a lifetime is to survive as who you truly are, not as who the world wants you to be. But here comes the cliffhanger. What happens after integration? What happens when you stop being ruled by illusions inside and outside? What happens when you live with both Machiavelli's strategy and Jung's authenticity? In the next block, we will see the transformation. We will see what it looks like to live unshakable, rare, unforgettable. We will explore how this path makes you magnetic, respected, and free, and why it terrifies those who remain unconscious. You've walked through illusion. You've faced the cruelty of the world with Machiavelli, and the cruelty of yourself with Jung. You've learned to integrate shadow and strategy, fear and love, mask and authenticity. And now we ask, what happens when you live this way? What happens when you stop collapsing into blind goodness and start living consciously, deliberately, with both strength and depth? The transformation begins quietly. At first, you don't even notice it. You speak less, but when you speak, people listen. You stop apologizing for existing. You stop trying to prove your worth. You stop chasing love and start commanding respect. And the room feels it. They can't always explain it, but they feel the gravity of your presence. Then the shift grows stronger. People test you as they always do. They manipulate, they guilt, they try to control. But you don't collapse. You don't lash out either. You hold still, calm, boundaried, and suddenly they realize their usual tricks don't work on you. They can't bend you. They can't drain you. They can't own you. And that realization unsettles them. This is what it means to become unshakable. Machiavelli said it is better to be feared than loved. Jung said you must integrate your shadow. Together they reveal this truth. Respect is born when love and fear meet. Not terror, not cruelty, but the steady recognition that you are kind, yet firm, compassionate, yet boundaried, authentic, yet strategic. You become a paradox. And paradox terrifies people because they can't control it. Think of your relationships. Before, you may have been the one who gave endlessly, forgave endlessly, collapsed endlessly. But now, you draw clear lines. You forgive, but only once. You give, but never until you are empty. You love, but never at the cost of self-respect. This balance makes you magnetic. Partners who once played games now hesitate. Friends who once used you now shift uneasily. Some leave. Good. Because the ones who stay are those strong enough to stand beside you. Think of your career. Before, you may have hoped that kindness and hard work alone would earn recognition. But you've seen the truth. Appearances matter, strategy matters, alliances matter. Now, you master appearances without being consumed by them. You wear the mask strategically, but you take it off in solitude. You play the game without becoming the game. And this makes you rise. You are respected because you deliver results, but also because you carry depth. Think of yourself. Before, you may have hidden your shadow, pretending to be good. You may have collapsed into helplessness or projected your flaws onto others. But now, you admit your manipulations. You admit your victimhood. You admit your mask. And in admitting, you take their power. Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Now you call it by name. Now you choose. Now you live awake." This is the climax of the path. Individuation with strategy, authenticity with power. You don't need the herd's approval anymore. You don't fear their rejection. You don't collapse into their illusions. And that freedom is terrifying, because most people cannot imagine it. But here's the paradox again. While some fear you, others are drawn to you. They admire the steadiness, the clarity, the wholeness. They want to orbit around you, hoping to taste even a fraction of that freedom. You become magnetic not because you chase people, but because you stand steady. You become unforgettable not because you shout, but because your silence carries weight. And here is the deepest truth. The goal was never to be feared. The goal was never to dominate. The goal was to be whole. The fear, the respect, the magnetism, they are side effects of integration. The real prize is freedom. The freedom to live as yourself. The freedom to walk into any room without collapse. The freedom to speak or stay silent without shame. The freedom to love without losing yourself, and to walk away without guilt. This is the life Machiavelli and Jung both point to in their own ways. Machiavelli stripped away illusions about others. Jung stripped away illusions about yourself. Together, they give you the map to authenticity with power, strategy with soul, respect without collapse. So the question remains, will you live it, or will you go back? Will you return to blind goodness, collapsing into weakness, hoping the world will reward you? Or will you step into individuation, into strategy, into wholeness, and become someone unforgettable? Because if you do, everything changes. You stop being replaceable. You stop being fragile. You stop being invisible. You become whole. You become free. You become the rare human being who terrifies the unconscious because you are awake. Write it in the comments. I choose awareness. Let that be your declaration. Let that be your line in the sand. And if you are ready to keep rising, subscribe, because this is not the end. This is the beginning. The next video will take you even deeper into the shadows, the strategies, and the truths that make you unshakable.